Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. All right. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal to Eat with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share to our podcast on all of your social media, all of our social media platforms and all of your podcast listening platforms. Also, do me a favor, make sure you guys go over and check out our podcasting network channel on YouTube. It's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Make sure you guys go there and check us out, where you can find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast and also the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. There's also two other podcasts that's there, including a podcast I started with my brother called the M.A.N and Earth podcast. We got a couple episodes up there. And then we also have the Faith Walk Love Talk podcast, which is a Bible study podcast that my sister does. And so make sure that you guys are going to check that out. Also, make sure you guys check out our product of the week. So as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast. And one of the things that we do in order to stay on the air and do what we do is bring you amazing products to purchase. And so our product of the week is our Purpose Journal, as well as our Purpose Planner, because we believe that you should journal to keep track of where you've been and where you are in life, as well as plan for your future. So make sure you guys check out the description, because in the descriptions there is the link to get your copy of our Purpose Journal as well as our Purpose Planner, which are both on Amazon. So make sure you guys check out the descriptions under this podcast episode. But today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Dr. Bradley Shepard. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Ernest. How about yourself?
I am good. Thank you for being on. You could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it.
And I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you having me on. This is going to be a good time. And, you know, we've been on, we've spoken before. And so this is, I'm looking forward to our discussion again. And and keep up with the good work that you're doing.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yes, as you mentioned, we have been on before on our sister podcast, which is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. And so, one of the things that I do on this podcast, I start off when I know you're a girl dad, when my guest is a girl dad, I start off with the same two questions that I actually start off the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So, I'll ask you those same two questions, which is, what does it mean for you personally to be a girl dad, and then what is something that your daughters has taught you?
So the first thing that I said, it's just being there, making sure that you're there, that you're listening, and that you're responding. And I think that's pretty much the secret to life, just to show up. And it certainly is, been the case, raising a daughter for sure. And, one of the things that I learned from the daughter is, life's tough, and it's okay to show emotions. I grew up in a culture where, guys, we're tough. We don't cry. We don't show emotion, but, raising a daughter is like, you don't necessarily have to do that. It's okay to show your emotion. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to cry. And that's something that she really taught me, is to, engage with my emotions rather than try to just bury them deep down.
Right. Yes. Yes. I love it. That's definitely one of the things. I think you get it with sons too, but definitely with daughters. Like, I think it's like the next level of emotional awareness. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like because you have to be mindful of their emotions, and so it makes you more in touch with your emotions as well. So yes, I love that answer. So Dr. Shepherd, do me a favor. Introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
You bet. I'm Dr. Bradley Shepherd. I'm a chiropractor. I've been a chiropractor for the last 15 years, but I'm also a certified functional medicine practitioner. And so what I do as far as that goes is I get to, excuse me, help women primarily in their 40s and 50s that are dealing with this chronic pain that, maybe they've seen, doctors and chiropractors and physical therapies, and they've got injections, but nothing seems to be helping. And so we take more of a natural, holistic approach to help reduce their chronic pain so they can get their life back, really. A lot of the clients that I work with, they just feel like a shell of themselves, and they're not who they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready to get back to that.
Yeah.
I had a client just last week actually say, you know what, I get to be the fun grandma again. And that, that's just, that makes you feel real good. And so that's what I do. And the way we do that is with nutritional endocrine modulation. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit later on tonight. That's it in a nutshell.
Definitely. So I'm very interested in the work that you do, right? But I want to go back a little bit in your own story. How did you even get into the practice of the chiropractic practice and the natural remedies, should I say, practice as well? Like, what was your journey to becoming a doctor, or even being interested in that space that that you took that on as a career?
Well, believe it or not, I wanted to be a math teacher at first, because I wanted to help people, and I wanted to, get them excited. I wanted to help, young math students that probably don't like math, but I wanted to help them get excited about it,
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of take that approach with what I do here. But it got to the point where, okay, the teachers don't make very much, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I can't support a family on that salary. There's too many laws and restrictions that don't allow me to teach in a way that I want to teach. And so I decided that I wanted to look somewhere else. Incidentally, I had, when I was working, I had a little bout of low back pain, and I went to a chiropractor, and he fixed me in one visit. That's not very typical, but I was thrilled with it. And so as I was thinking of, changing careers, I kind of thought back to that experience for whatever reason. And I'm like, I started looking into it a little bit more, and I found out that they're actually doctors too. I didn't know that. but they are doctors. And, I liked that idea of taking kind of a natural approach and actually trying to fix the problem rather than, oh, here's my symptoms and give a pill, or, a prescription or something. And not to badmouth the medical profession, because I mean, it can, a medicine can be really helpful, especially to get you through a rough episode. It's a miracle, right? But again, it doesn't address the underlying problem. And so what I started seeing is, as my parents were starting to age and my grandparents were starting to age, they'd get put on a medication and medication to give them side effects. So that be put on another medication, and on and on and on. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way than this. And so when I started looking at chiropractic, they said, get to the underlying cause of the problem. And that really resonated with me. Plus, we're doing it in a natural way. And so, getting back to nature, that was something that really, really appealed to me. Once I got into chiropractic school, we learned all about the nervous system and the spine and, anatomy and physiology and biomechanics and all of that. And it turns out that the chiropractic philosophy, or dogma, if you will, always went back to the spine and the nervous system. And they started, saying that, the spine and the nervous system is the cause of all problems. I wasn't really convinced of that, but I learned that with chiropractic, it's really, really, really good at addressing any sort of musculoskeletal problem. And then once I got into practice, I started, adjusting and using my chiropractic techniques and getting people better. But there was always this small population that wasn't getting better. It worked for everyone else, but this population it didn't work for. So I decided, there's something else that I'm missing. Excuse me. And so once, as about 10 years into 15 years into my career, I discovered something called functional medicine, which again touted that, okay, get to the underlying cause of the problem. But this time it wasn't just the spine. It was looking at, heavy metal toxicity. It was looking at environmental factors. It was looking at nutrition. It was looking at exercise. It was looking at sleep and so much more. And that finally was like, okay, this is what I've been looking for the last 10 years. And so I actually started implementing some of these ideas into my own practice. And I started really looking at hormones and balancing hormones. And I learned through balancing hormones and through all of the research that I did, that there's a musculoskeletal component to hormone imbalances and vice versa. And that's like, okay, this fits perfectly with chiropractic, with the hormones and the musculoskeletal stuff. And that's really opened the doors so I can help those other people that just weren't responding to chiropractic treatment.
Yeah, and I think that's good, because I think I mentioned on the other podcast that we did that I have a friend of mine who she goes to the chiropractor like every other month or something like that, and then she also gets like massages, pretty often. And I just think that's because I don't know, her health history or anything like that. But I just know that, she deals with some things that causes her, some pain or discomfort. And so that's why she regularly, goes. Not saying that it can't be good just to go, especially the massages. But I think it's with her, it's the thing, like she has to go almost, and so I was even thinking with her about that and being, maybe some underlining causes of something that could be with her hormones and things of that nature. Because I think she's in her 40s, early 40s, if not, late 30s. But I think she's probably in her 40s. So just I know things may differ definitely with everyone, but just in a general sense, almost, what could be some of the signs that you may have, or a young lady may have some kind of imbalance that, may be the cause of some of her pain that she may be having?
Well, first of all, as you get to know your body, right? You know when there's something that's not quite right, and that's usually the first flag is maybe they have a decrease in energy. Maybe they're starting to have these aches and pains that start to creep in. There could be, changes in your skin or changes in your hair or changes in your fingernails that just something's not quite right. And that could be the first indication. Another indication is the musculoskeletal complaints that we're having. Okay, all of a sudden, maybe you're starting to have migraines that you never had before. Or maybe you're starting to have low back pain that doesn't change with different positioning. Or maybe you're having that, frozen shoulder, believe it or not, could be that there could be a thyroid component with frozen shoulder. So there's just these little signals that maybe you're not sleeping as well, or maybe you're starting to put on a little bit of weight, or you can't keep the weight off like you used to be able to. So all of these signs and symptoms could be linked to this beginning of the hormone imbalancing.
Yeah, and I know her. She does have a problem with one of her shoulders often. So I mean, because you mentioned the frozen shoulder, and I'm not necessarily sure what that is, but I do know she does have a issue with one of her shoulders a lot too. So, what is frozen shoulder? Just for context.
So frozen shoulder is a really painful condition that affects your shoulder. And there's, 3 or 4 different phases that you go through. There's the painful phase. There's the limited range of motion. You just can't move it anymore like you used to. And then there's kind of this long recovery phase. And this process can go for, a year, and maybe even a little bit longer than a year to get through this whole process. And part of it is musculoskeletal, so it could be due to an injury. But if there's no injury to the shoulder and it's just starting to get painful and hard to move and stiffening up, that might be a thyroid problem too, because hypothyroidism is an independent risk factor for this frozen shoulder. In fact, 30% of people with a hypothyroid problem will develop frozen shoulder.
So what are some other ailments or pain, should I say, that may be related to a hormone imbalance? Because you mentioned the frozen shoulder and the thyroids, right? So what could be something else that just a couple of things that the audience could probably look out for if they're experiencing some pains that possibly can let them know they need to be calling you.
Yeah. One of the big things is headaches, actually, especially if it's the recurring headaches, headaches that occur about every month. Okay. Mm-hmm. And women are going to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It coincides with their cycle. That's a huge indicator. So if you're getting those monthly migraines, then you definitely have an estrogen progesterone imbalance. Maybe even a testosterone imbalance too. Testosterone is not something that we typically think of with females, but it's really important in females, just as it is with males, and vice versa. Males just tend to produce a lot more of it. But there are other conditions like PCOS that in women that make testosterone go through the roof, which is really unusual. So there's a lot of different conditions, even low back pain. Disc degeneration actually can be linked to estrogen deficiencies as well. There are studies in rats that show that estrogen deficiencies can actually cause or aggravate disc degeneration in the spine. And so let's see, what else is there? Any sort of, joint pain can be related to hormone imbalances too. For example, cortisol, or even, some vitamin and mineral deficiencies like magnesium and B12 and B6 can manifest as musculoskeletal problems too. So anywhere there's inflammation, there's probably going to be some sort of hormone imbalance as well. So all sorts of things, really.
Okay, okay. And so when they come to see you, and I guess that it'd be different than the chiropractic work, right? I mean that wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know for sure. I'm just gonna say off the top of my head, but then that would be separate from the chiropractic work. But then that's when you get into the natural remedies and the natural healing, and nutrients that they can take naturally to heal. So let's talk. Excuse me. Let's talk a little bit more about that because I think that's something that could heal a lot of our ailments. Especially now, one of the things which I've grew up doing it was fasting. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff now is like because there's so much stuff in our food and things of that nature. Is like intermittent fasting or just regular fasting more often on an often basis could help burn out some of this excess stuff that's in our bodies and heal us from a lot of the things that we don't know that we're actually feeding the sickness or feeding the disease just because of what we're feeding ourselves with some of the things that's in our food. So what is your take on that with the fasting and the intermediate fasting, and then we can talk more about the nutrients and things.
Yeah, fasting, if you do like a day fast once a month, there are some studies out there that show that can be really beneficial. I like the intermittent fasting to me that because that makes a lot more sense. And in fact, the word breakfast means break fast. And so,
Mhm.
we used to do that, we'd eat, everything that we're going to eat within, in an 8 hour period of the day, and then we'd fast for the rest of it. So to me, that makes a lot of sense to do it that way. There's lots of different types of intermittent fasting. Um, and what I would recommend is find one that works for you
Mhm.
and see what one makes you feel the most energy and feel your best and go with that one. But I like the one where we eat 8 hours of eating and the rest of not eating. So that's the one that I tend to follow.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna have to. I usually do like to a 6 o'clock, right? So depending on which one I'm doing, I grew up doing what we would call a denial, right? And we just wouldn't eat or drink anything till 6 p.m. And we would do it all the time. So as you grow into it, and like I said, I grew up doing it, so it's not a big thing for me, but most people are like, what?
Mhm.
It's like I gotta have something. But I grew up doing it, so it's not nothing extravagant for me. But one thing that I did have to, the last time I did it, is kind of break my norms because I'm a person that fall into patterns. So every morning I gotta have my sausage and cup of coffee, and it just out of routine. So just on those days that I fast, it's like, okay, what I mean? You gotta just break your routine up a little bit too. So I think that helps also. But let's talk about these the nutrients, the different nutrients and things that could help us naturally to heal some of the things that may be going on with our bodies. And I know I actually before we started recording, and you mentioned about a PDF that you have and a website that kind of goes over some of these foods and things that could help us. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
You bet. So one of uh, all of the hormones that we have in our body, they're made out of other stuff, right? We
Mhm.
make the hormones, and so you need specific nutrients and foods to actually make those hormones. For example, testosterone, you need magnesium and zinc. If you don't have magnesium and zinc, or if you're deficient in either one of those, you're not going to make enough testosterone. You're going to be testosterone deficient. And that's just a really, really simple example. Some other hormones that are a little bit more complicated are thyroid hormones. So for thyroid hormones, you need vitamin D, you need magnesium, you need zinc, you need selenium, you need iodine, you need what else was there? A couple of other things I can't remember right off the top of my head. But you need all of that in order to make thyroid hormone, and you need other additional nutrients in order to convert thyroid hormone from an inactive form to an active form. So it can get really complicated. But if the bottom line is if you're not getting the right nutrients, you're not going to make the right hormones. You're not going to be able to regulate those hormones, and that's going to throw it off of balance. So my approach, again, getting back to the underlying cause, people would come into my office with musculoskeletal problems, would do adjustments and treatments, and they weren't getting better. Would look at why they didn't have, why they weren't responding, why they had the back pain in the first place. And a lot of times that was the hormone imbalances. Well, the next question is, what's the underlying cause of the hormone imbalances? And a lot of times it was those missing nutrients. And then, of course, if you want to go further back, why are these nutrients not there? Probably because they're not eating right, right? And why aren't they eating right? Well, that's a whole other that we could get into. But if you follow everything back and keep following back, you're really gonna, be able to uncover a lot more than if you're, just listening to a symptom and prescribing a pill.
Yeah. So let's talk about the PDF with the top foods that you can eat. Explain that to me.
Yeah, it's a list of the top 10 foods that I recommend that will help balance hormones. And again, the reason that we want to balance those hormones is that we can reduce that chronic pain, get your life back so you can be the fun grandma again, or, just enjoy being around with your family. Because I know a lot of women that struggle with this, they start to close down and they start to go into their shell. They don't want to go out. They don't want to socialize. And even though they miss it, they just don't have the energy, or they feel embarrassed about it. And so they don't want to go out and do all the normal things, or they just worry that they're going to have a flare up and have to go home early anyway, So there's a lot of issues that can be resolved by balancing hormones. And that's why I kind of created this list, because I just want to give something, offer for free, of course, and give them some ideas of what they can be incorporating into their diet. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't go into what you should probably eliminate, because there's some things that you might want to eliminate too that will also cause these hormone imbalances. But this top 10 food list is a really good start, at least to start thinking about, okay, what are we putting into our mouths? What are we putting into our body? And all of these top 10 foods have specific nutrients that are needed for the 7 hormones that can cause pain. So we're talking about estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, insulin, DHEA, thyroid hormones. So all of these hormones and nutrients that you need to balance those hormones are included in the foods that are on that top 10 list.
All right. So just to as a teaser, give us one good one that's on the list so that we can be even pushed a little bit more to make sure we we reach out to you to get the download.
You bet. I'll give you number 10. How's that?
Okay, that's good.
Well, number 10 on there is chia seeds and flax seeds. I kind of group those in together because they have very similar kind of makeups. And so chia seeds and flax seeds is the number 10 on the list. So if you want to find out number 1, go ahead and down that get that list.
Is it cheese seeds?
Chia
Seeds.
Seeds. Chia seeds and flax seeds.
Okay, I think I've heard of flax seeds before.
Yeah.
Okay. So all right, so that means I definitely got to download it myself, so I so I can know what I'm looking at. So I want to switch it up really quickly before we get out of here, because so I haven't been to a chiropractor, right? I've never been. And I don't get massages, and that's just my personal thing because I don't like strangers rubbing on me. So, so I don't do massages. Um, but as we were talking before we started recording, I'm a bricklayer by trade. I'm 20 something years in at this point. I think I have, I haven't had any joint pain or anything like that, but it could just be from not stretching enough, whatever, but I do probably in some spaces can't do things that I used to do, like touch my toes and things of that nature. So what would coming to see a chiropractor help me just in overall health? Like I said, I'm not in any pain or anything, but I just, do think that maybe I should go just because, maybe get some stretching and, maybe loosen some things up. I don't know.
Well, believe it or not, a lot of the clients that come in because they have a problem,
Mhm.
and or they've been in a car accident, or they have some sort of a sports injury or whatever it is, and
Mhm.
we get them back to we get them back on the road. We get them back on their feet, and we get them feeling really good. And believe it or not, a lot of them choose to continue on just on a maintenance basis,
Yeah.
just because they're feeling good and they want to stay feeling good. So I would say absolutely, it's like, if you take care of your joints, just like
Mhm.
getting a regular oil change on your car,
Yeah.
they're going to last longer. So yeah, I like to go to the chiropractor too on a monthly basis, just because I know it's good for me.
Right. All
Mhm.
right. Cool. Cool. Cool.
I want to
So
last forever.
right. Oh, I wish we could, but I know I know that we can't. So before we get out of here, Dr. Shepard, I want you to give us the last words, right? I want you to give us the last word and leave us with a word of advice, motivation, however you feel, right? What's on your heart. Also, I want you to give us your social media information or also your website, things of that nature, where we can find you in order to support you and to work with you for whatever, things that we may be dealing with. And need your services. And so I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure that you guys are checking me out on our main website, which is the dealhealfulfill.org. Again, it's dealhealfulfill.org. On that website, you can find everything about what I'm doing with the website. I mean, not the website, but with the podcast and my speaking career as a speaker, as an author. Also, you got there's a booking page there that you can go to in order to book me to come out to speak at your school or organization or to facilitate a workshop for your school or organization. So again, make sure you guys go to dealhealfulfill.org in order to check that out. Also, make sure you guys go and check out our ebooks at ebooksbyejames.com. There are several ebooks that's there. There's the core four, which is the core four values that every daughter should get from her father. There's From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook. But there's one that I'm very excited about, which is the Forgiving Me, the four-step guide to self-forgiveness. And right now, when you go to ebooksbyejames.com, you can get your copy of the Forgiving Me ebook absolutely free. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. You can get the Forgiving Me Four Steps Guide to Self Forgiveness absolutely free. But when you go to get your free book, make sure that you purchase one of our other ebooks just to show your support. And we definitely appreciate that. Also, our inspirational t shirt line at deal2healtees.com. That's deal, the number two, healtees.com. We have an array of inspirational t-shirts as well as our podcast merch, which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. There's one for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast as well as one for the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. So make sure you guys go to deal, the number two, healtees.com, deal2healtees.com to get your inspirational t-shirt today. Last but not least, over the last few years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And one of the things that we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month. And we talk about everything surrounding forgiveness, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world, just really diving deep into, everything forgiveness. And these meetings, Zoom calls on Zoom, but it's absolutely free. But the information is priceless. So whenever you're watching this podcast, either one just ended or there's one coming up. So you can go to forgivenessmission.com in order to sign up for our next free virtual workshop, or go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission, and you can find it there to sign up again for our free virtual workshop that we have bi-monthly, talking about everything surrounding forgiveness. Again, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world. So when you go to forgivenessmission.com and sign up for our free virtual workshop, you can also go to ebooksbyejames.com to get your Forgiving Me, the 4-step guide to self-forgiveness, to go along as a duo to help you with your forgiveness journey. So that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Dr. Shepherd, thank you so much for coming on to share your expertise. Definitely enjoy having you on this podcast, as well as the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. To my audience, make sure you guys go to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast also, so you can see our interview with Dr. Shepherd as being girl dads, talking about our love and appreciation for our daughters. But that being said, Dr. Shepherd, again, I appreciate you coming on, share your story, share your expertise. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Well, thank you again, James, Ernest, sorry, for having me on. It is always a pleasure speaking with you. And, one of the last message that I want to have is if you are suffering from chronic pain and you've been through the ringer and you've been to the medical doctors and you've tried just about everything, and you're looking for just some a natural approach, there's hope. And that's what I really want to say, is there is hope. I've seen some incredible turnarounds, and people that thought that they were ready to give up. And so it can be a life-changing journey. And I'm really honored to share that with you. And so that's what I would recommend. Just don't give up hope. And, if you can find a natural way of dealing with all of this, that's a really, really good way to go. And there are people out there to help. I'm one of them. And, download the free PDF of the top 10 foods, and that'll be a really good start for you. So, you mentioned the social media. You can find me on Facebook. Bradley Shepherd, Dr. Brad, look that up. Endomod.com is where you can find the top 10 food list. I am also on TikTok, so I do little TikTok videos, and that's where you can find me.
All right. Can't end to know better than that. Guys, make sure you look at the descriptions, go into the descriptions under this podcast episode, because the link and all of Dr. Shepherd's information will be there. You definitely want to download the PDF to get that information about the foods that you should be eating. All of that will be in the descriptions, as well as some great information that I want to share with you too. So make sure that you guys check that out. That being said, we can't end to know better than that. To my audience, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.